Time, having a good time.
All right, getting serious. Robin Williams.
Oh, that's sad. It's just sad. You know, it's sad when anybody has depression. And when a guy who's so beloved doesn't feel it and kills himself, it seems almost impossibly tragic. You know, I met him. I met Robin Williams at the Hollywood Improv, and I didn't know it was him until I was in the middle of talking to him. I did a show, and there was a line of people after the show that were taking pictures, and I was taking pictures of all these people, and this guy comes up and he starts telling me, he's just being really complimentary, telling me he loved this one bit that I did about dolphins, and then I'm looking at him and I'm realizing, holy shit, this is Robin Williams. Like, I thought I was just talking to some guy. In the middle of talking to him, like, this is what he was. There was no pretense. There's nothing weird about him. He's a giant movie star. He waited in line with all the other people, and he had a hat on and glasses, and I didn't know it was him. I literally didn't know it was him until he was like 2 minutes into our conversation.
That you are here. That life exists and identity. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse.
I'm filming a comedy special next week at the Denver Comedy Works. It's just a club outside of, in Denver rather, downtown. Just like this amazing small comedy club. It's like 200 seats, really low ceiling. It's like real old school comedy club. Like one of the best clubs in the country. So I'm super excited about it.
I only got one or two questions more because you got to go out there and talk, and I appreciate you spending time with the show. Hey, I agree and I disagree with you on your chemtrail show. On conspiracies, that was a good show. Are you still doing that show?
No, I don't think so. Well, we're still talking, but if we do it, it's going to be in a different way. Because there was a problem with that show, and one of the problems is that most of the subjects were kind of like, you know, you're talking to people about UFOs, you're talking to people about Bigfoot, you're hoping that you're going to get some real information.
Oh yeah.
The reality is, when you start digging into how a lot of these folks think, they have this exorbitant need to believe that those things are true, whether it's UFOs, whether it's Bigfoot, and there's not a lot of critical thinking. It's when you
No, I agree, but the media only lets you have shows where you cover Bigfoot and chupacabras. They offered me some shows like that. I was on Ventura's show for a while, and then it went to that the third season, so they basically canceled it. So I think that's more of a corporate thing. But listen, I agree with you. A lot of the so-called conspiracy culture is BS stuff on purpose. And most of the chemtrail stuff is bull. It's ice crystals. But there are real government programs to geoengineer and manipulate the weather.
I think you're probably right. I don't doubt that. That's not what I doubted at all.
No, I know. It's just what particular people are saying.
There's just a real issue when people are looking at Southwest flights. They're going back and forth over Burbank Airport or any airport, and they look at them and they think something is going on. They think that they're getting sprayed. They think that the government is spraying them. But the reality...
They think the NSA is watching them.
But what they need to understand is the reality is, no, it's not like a spray that's in the air. But what's going on is it's jet fuel that's burning in the air. And to the tone of millions of flights. I mean, the tune of
so millions
of flights.
And the Earth is 20% darker now because of it.
Yeah, and well, that was one of the things about 9/11.
No, I love the show. I mean, I actually agree with you that there's all these schizophrenics who literally think everything's going on, but then meanwhile the government's so out of control that then it's, a lot of times some of it's going on. So, I mean, it must totally, imagine being a schizophrenic now when there's just so much crazy real stuff, and it must just feed the fire. But I'm sorry, you're talking about 9/11.
Well, I was saying after 9/11, when they stopped flights, there was this like the change in the Earth's temperature because of all the flights.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah. It was madness. The United States temperature changed like in a measurable way because there was no flights. Because of the artificial clouds that are created, they do alter the temperature. But what people should be really concerned with is the instances of disease, of lung disease that people have that live near airports.
Oh, it's incredible.
Dude, it's not good at all. Like, living near an airport is terrible for you. Like, that's the real chemtrail. The real chemtrail is
the fuel.
Yeah, it's not that they're spraying in the sky.
A lot of them don't like to land heavy. The big secret is they start dumping fuels. You know that.
Yeah.
I mean, it is crazy.
Well, it's also, I mean, look, there have been all sorts of theories about geoengineering, of how to accomplish it. There's been all sorts of discussion about what to do if the hole in the ozone layer gets bigger. many scientists have come up with what they think are theories or partial solutions or ideas for future concepts that could be a solution someday when technology reaches that certain point.
Space mirrors, everything.
To think that, to think that they haven't would be silly. Like, why wouldn't they think about those things? Why wouldn't they study those things? It's just how much of it are we actually seeing? When you're seeing all these things that people think are artificial clouds, if you think that that's the government spraying, the problem is you f***ed up the real conspiracies. When you have something that is simple and disprovable, like just the fact that jets cause condensation, condensation in the air rather, goes through these jets and it creates artificial clouds.
Sure.
Like it's been proven that.
Be honest, what did you think, like when I first mentioned, like in 1998 here at Cap City Comedy Club, some mutual friends brought me down here and we hung out and had dinner and stuff and had fun. What did you think when I was saying a lot of wild stuff then versus now? The police state,
you were way
the world
ahead of your time.
I don't know what you said. I'm way ahead of my time.
You are so far ahead of your time. This is what, look, are you a paranoid guy? Yes, you're a little paranoid, but you're right a lot. And you were right about them using military tactics for the police in the 90s. You were talking about how one day it's going to be like Tiananmen Square, and they're going to roll tanks out. And I remember thinking, how crazy is he? He thinks they're going to roll tanks, they're going to have military people on the streets in American soil. Like, that would never happen. But that's happened.
But I was reading RAND Corporation, National Military Stabilization Force quotes. That's what I'm telling people, is that a lot of it isn't just theoretical. They're planning a global authoritarian system. It's not even Americans. It's not the military. It's not the cops. It's these global central planners. But
it's like, it seems to be there's more police violence lately. There was something on one of the websites that had the 4 unarmed men who were killed by police this month. And it like had this profile, these guys that were killed by cops. And
what about the UC Davis thing, just spraying people in handcuffs?
Sick.
Remember, you spoke out against that.
So, well, they weren't even handcuffs, right? Weren't they protesting? Didn't they just block?
Yeah, they sat down on the ground. Yeah. Some had already been handcuffed because they wouldn't get up.
The whole thing is so fun.
So it was torture to get up.
There's a real problem when you control people in ways, like if you have a giant system, like the kind of system that we have now, and you control people in ways where everybody can watch, you put on these displays of power, but everybody sees that, and it riles everybody else up. It's like, when people see a riot, it makes other riots more likely to happen. It makes the possibility of other riots, and that's one of the things that I think that the military is totally terrified about, and so, or the police, the militarized.
So why are they pushing tactics that actually incite it?
Because they're trying to scare everybody into backing down. That's the only way they know how. It's like that old expression, if you only have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. It's like they're trying to get people to back down, and people want blood. This kid got shot. The whole thing is like one of those things where
I may have to go there.
Very difficult to see how they're going to calm everybody down, and how they're going to bring peace, and how they're going to come to some sort of a resolution. They can be cool with each other. Those are scary moments for a city. A riot, a big riot, and especially with like a real good reason behind it. A guy got killed by a cop who was unarmed. Those are terrible, terrible moments.
As the violence ramps up and as the police state ramps up, the two things go together. That's why I was talking earlier about why is government building more bunkers and billions of rounds of ammo and thousands of armored vehicles and training to take on the gun owners. I mean, it's crazy. Can you imagine if the government tries an open gun confiscation program, Joe?
People believe in it. Some people think it's the right idea. Like I've talked to people that are intelligent people that talk to me about Australia. Australia did something similar, and they reduced the amount of gun violence drastically.
But overall muggings and stuff went up.
Did they?
Yeah, it's just like England. You ban the guns, yeah, that stuff goes down, but overall crime goes up. Well, in closing, what is your favorite comedy bit of all time by someone else, and then what is your all favorite of yours?
I don't have a favorite of my own, but my favorite of all time, it would have to be Sam Kinison. I worked at this place called the Boston Athletic Club, and this is before I ever thought about being a comic. I was probably like 19 years old. And I was working at this place, and there was this chick behind the counter that was my friend, and she was going on about this Sam Kinison guy. I saw Sam Kinison on HBO. Oh my God, it was so funny. She goes, he did this bit about, so she did the bit. She did the Kinison bit for me. She got down on the ground, and did the whole bit. It never ends! It never ends! Oh, oh! So she's doing that in the parking lot. She is doing an impression of Sam Kinison. She was yelling out the bit. And so I went, God, I gotta see this. So I went out and got a VHS copy of it. I saw it, or somehow or another, I watched it.
Did that almost spur you into wanting to be in comedy?
That was the first time that I ever thought that I could be a comedian. Not because I was like as good as him or anything like that. What it made me realize is like, oh, that's comedy too. Like comedy is not just those guys that I love watching on Evening at the Improv. I used to love Evening at the Improv. Like they would have all those shows, the guys would get out there in their blazers, they would say something really funny, and then the next guy would come up and he would do the same thing. And they all had like sort of a similar pattern. I really loved it. Like I was a big Jerry Seinfeld fan, and I loved, you know, there's so many great comics from that time. Richard Jeni, who's a big Richard Jeni fan. But out of nowhere, this Sam Kinison guy comes along. And I saw what he was doing. He had a t-shirt on. It was a cut t-shirt. He had a long coat on, like a trench coat, and a backwards fedora, like not a fedora, but one of those like Kango hats. And I remember watching him do it. I was like, wow.
Is he your favorite?
He's my favorite for 1 year. I think for 1 year, Kinison was the greatest comic ever. I think in 1986. But I think he's also a cautionary tale because he was such a brilliant comic, but he's so haunted by demons. Like, if you want to listen to Mark Maron has a fantastic account of like all the times like he was hanging out partying with Kinison when he was coming up. He was a young guy and he worked at the Comedy Store and he did blow with Kinison and they told crazy stories. Mark said that they did so much coke that he heard voices in his head for a year.
Wow.
Which is crazy. And
then
it took its toll. It's what I'm saying is it took its toll on his performances, on his comedy itself. Because I think in that first year, before he became like Sam Kinison, the megastar, he was hungry and he was creative and he was doing a lot of like really groundbreaking stuff. I mean, there's some people that think that, you know, some of it was like misogynistic or homophobic, and you know, there's good points to be made.
But it's real, so what? It's comedy.
But there's points
That's
to be made.
tyranny
Like
trying to tell people not to sell dirty jokes or funny jokes
well, I
or
think
cultural
there's points
jokes.
to be made like that in other art forms too, in movies too. I mean, there's funny movies, there's great movies that show, you know, horrible things that you really shouldn't do to people, but they're great in movie form.
You know who else is a great comic? And I'm here to see him tonight. It's Joe Rogan. He's coming up in mere minutes.
We got show business.
All right. Well, thanks for the time, man.
Brother.
You're awesome. That was a great interview. INFOWARS.com. Plug your websites.
JoeRogan.net, INFOWARS.com. That's it.
And the podcast. I mean,
The Joe Rogan Experience. You get it on iTunes. If the Illuminati lets you. If the black helicopters don't come and take away your cell phone, you think I'm playing games. Government-issued boots, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely verifiable. I've got the documents right here. We got close, high-profile, high-resolution photographs.
what's your favorite rock band?
I don't... Skynyrd, maybe?
General, what do you think about the FBI saying that there was a terror alert on Monday about a potential Fort Hood situation?
The police are shoving people, shoving Alex, shoving the crowd.
Here we go, folks. I'm being assaulted.
Whether it's the radio show, the news websites, documentary films, or the nightly news, InfoWars is the tip of the spear.
Is this another false flag stage attack to take our civil liberties and put more homeland security on sticking their hands down on the pants on the streets?
It's up to us to set brush fires in the minds of men and women everywhere. And that's what PrisonPlanet.tv is designed to do.
You watch, the Assad regime is going to be blamed or accused of using chemical weapons against the so-called rebels.
What we see now is a war against reality. It's a war against the truth.
It's more vital than ever that supporters of freedom become members of PrisonPlanet.tv and share their membership with up to 11 friends and family. Visit InfoWarsNews.com today. Become a member, share your membership, and help take the InfoWar to the next level.